Oh, good. All right, there we go. What's up, guys? I've been wanting to return and talk about my return to World of Warcraft's Endgame, and I'll actually be talking about the Pre-Endgame, which has been a really weird experience because, and the reason I want to make this video is because my last video was talking about my return to World of Warcraft, and I was having a ton of fun, and I still think the game is awesome. I still think it's really cool, and I'm glad that I've returned and played it, but there's a big but, too, and I want to talk about that. Basically getting into the end game, and I'm not in endgame, but that's what I want to talk about. My first experience with endgame was looking for raid, and the last time I had really played this game a lot was Cataclysm. Like, that was when I was last the most hardcore, and I think I did all the raids then. I think I might have missed a couple. I think I was quitting during Cataclysm, so there was probably like a couple raids or so that I didn't do. Whatever. Then I returned to Pandaria to check out the pandas and play that for a little bit. So my first experience with LFR was in Pandaria, and I remember they toned it down. I remember they specifically toned down the difficulty for looking for raid, and I thought that was cool. I was like, that's smart, whatever. It gives people that are casuals a chance to raid and experience the content and stuff. But it was still, people still had to pay attention and do this stuff, And my first experience in looking for raid in Legion, there's only one raid right now. It's Kill Jaden in LFR. So out of I think it's 8 raids, probably at least 8 raids or so, maybe 9, I'm not sure. But out of several raids, there's only one that's kind of difficult in LFR, and that's the Kill Jaden one. And my buddy Wags reminded me, he said, look, this game's been out for a year, so people are geared and stuff, but still, I will never forget my first experience in an LFR where I went into the dungeon. And I'm a healer. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. I love to heal. Go in there. Nobody needs heals the entire time. Just kind of walking through it. And it was over. We killed 3 bosses. I didn't do anything except kind of walk through it and follow people to where they were going. Bosses died in a minute. Nobody needed heals. And I got free loot. And I was like, okay. It really disappointed the shit out of me. On top of that, same thing with normal dungeons and heroic dungeons. Going through those is incredibly dull. The funny thing is, even when I was freshly, sort of not fully geared or anything, and I was healing these dungeons, it was way different than healing them, years ago. When I remember we used to use crowd control, we call CC crowd control. CC for short, where mages would polymorph an enemy. When we pull a pack and we mark each of the packs, each of the mobs would get some kind of icon on it. This is our first target we're gonna kill. This is the one you're gonna sheep. This is the one you're gonna sap. This is the one, whatever CC we have, this is what we're gonna use on it. And this was on every dungeon, every pool, every pack pool. Now it's just. And it's been like this, probably, it was kind of like that in Cataclysm too, I think, by then. It was probably the same-ish kind of a thing. But not quite as bad as it is now. Now it's because they've lost so many subscribers, it's just full-on casual. That's the idea I get from what's happened to the game, because I cannot believe, how bad it's gotten. And the argument is, well, there's mythic difficulty. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that, and I understand that mythic can be a huge step up in difficulty. I get that, but it doesn't change the fact that a long time ago, normal dungeons required people to pay attention, and that wasn't just the first year. That wasn't until you got geared. It was even when you were geared. When you were geared, you could handle everything much easier, but it wasn't just, let's all run through everything and just AoE everything, and that's it. And you don't even barely touch heals, or you just kind of just run through it. And I'm not even exaggerating. That's what happens. You just walk through dungeons and everything dies, and you just AoE, and it's just like, what? And so that it's so boring. It's so boring, especially after you're geared. I had more fun when I was under geared. And I was probably the only. There was only I only encountered out of all the groups that I went into random dungeons, just heroics and stuff. I probably encountered like 2 or 3 noob groups where we were all kind of new, undergeared and stuff, and that was the most fun I had. But even then, it was just AOE everything. It was just a lot slower killing, and they required a lot more healing. So that is just incredibly disappointing, man. It's incredibly disappointing. With all the super cool updates the game has received, there's lots of cool stuff. Like, I actually really enjoy the world quests. Seems to be the solo end game, sort of. I mean, you group for them and stuff. Especially if you use an add-on. Was it World Quest Tracker or something? I think it's called World Quest Tracker that Wags told me to get, and I did. And it's a great add-on, especially for doing world quests. It's a really good add-on. And it's funny too, because what it does, it automatically create groups for you when you go to do these open world quests, and whoever has the add-on on, it'll gather you all together, and you can just pop into a group, finish your quest, and move on. You leave a group and all that. So it's cool for accomplishing group quests in the open world. It's so fast, though. It happens so fast. The only real world quests that I really like are the invasions or the bosses. And not they're these mobs called elites or whatever, or rares. They're called rares. They're not rare. Not like, I mean, they showed them on your mini map a long time ago. Rares used to be creatures that you would have to have randomly come across, discovered as you were going through the zone questing and whatever, or traveling through the zones. And you would see this named mob, and you'd be like, "Hey!" And they have a different portrait on their frame, the different frame portrait thing, and you'd be like, that's a special mob. And it'd be a different enemy. They might have more health or whatever. They always had different loot. Although, there were tons of times in like the old school World of Warcraft where you would kill those rare mobs and they'd drop jack crap. It'd be like, but at least you found a rare mob. That was cool. So now it's different. They call them rare mobs. I don't know why. I think they should give them a different name. I just call them named elites or something. I don't know. They should have a different name than rare, because they're not rare. They spawn like a couple minutes after you kill them, and everybody gets one shot to kill them for like special loot on that one time you kill them, and you can keep killing them over and over again, but one time that you kill them, that they're like more of a special character and stuff, and then after that they become normal and stuff. So and a long time ago, rares used to like actually take days to spawn or weeks to spawn. Or at least it seemed like that. I remember reading about a mob that specifically like spawned once a week or something, but I don't remember which one it was. But I remember reading stuff like that, and I don't know if it was 100% or people just weren't finding it or whatever. Could have been anything, because it was just a different kind of way the game was and stuff. So, anyways, so I like the rare mob stuff. Like, I think it's cool the way they do it. I just don't like the way it's called rare mob. It's kind of like, that's not very rare when it just respawns after you kill it. Gosh. And this is all what I'm talking about, like pre-endgame, sort of endgame. I'm not just talking about like raids, right? Like raids or endgame. That's like the ultimate endgame is raids, mythic raids. There's also the mythic dungeons, which I want to talk a little bit about that too, because it's, oh my gosh, something funny. So Blizzard has done a new PvE kind of MLG thing, which I think is a great idea. I think it's really cool. It's something I wanted a long time ago. Oh, I'm kidding me. I wanted that years ago, because I used to be hardcore in World of Warcraft, and I love PvE. I love healing. I always wanted something like that. They always had these PvP tournaments and stuff, and I always thought it would be really cool to have, if there was a way to do it, like dungeon tournaments. And that's basically now they do it, and they're starting it. It's brand new. And it's basically speed runs, right? Like through the mythic difficulties, like the hardest kind of difficulties in the game. They set your party to a certain item level. And you kind of, one group goes against another, and they're speed running and seeing who gets through it the most efficient and stuff like that, whatever, which, isn't a major deal, but it's fun for people that love PvE, and I always thought that would be cool. And now it's there. But now I watched some of it. It was a couple days ago or so on Twitch, and it was live, and they did the mythic tournament thing or whatever. And there's 2 reasons I stopped watching it. The main one was that the stream was super laggy. Like, it kept freezing constantly. And it wasn't just me, it was chat. Chat was like, hey, your stream is freezing a whole bunch. And I watched it for about half an hour or so. I don't know. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just not worth it watching this in the way it's going on. Like, it's a bunch of lag and all it was. And man, I was so excited. I was like, dude, is this where I get to see real Endgame? Is this where the real dungeons are? Where we're gonna be seeing like this really cool coordinated crowd control, this mob, this mob, this mob, and you're gonna single target DPS. No, it was still the same thing where you fucking just AoE heal and push through everything. And then you got people dying, and then they were, instead of, which is understandable, instead of waiting for a res, they just run back because they're still in combat, and it's just, you might as well just run back. So that's what that's what I was watching. That's what I saw. Maybe I might have missed some other stuff. Maybe certain dungeons have different ways that you go through them. But I was so disappointed to see this like MLG PvE tournament thing happening, and it was the same thing that I had played through, where it just your group took more damage and you could die a lot quicker. That's all it was. But it was still AoE the group down, and I was like, dude, what the hell? I was really looking forward to getting into Mythics a lot, and I still I want to. Haven't done it yet. I need to, in order to understand this better, because it's right now I'm not doing Mythics and stuff, and I'm telling you, if anybody watches this and they're like, this guy hasn't done Mythics, what a freaking idiot, dislike video. I don't care, whatever. I'm talking about the normal, like, that's why I'm gonna title this Endgame, my return to Endgame, but it's basically my return to pre-Endgame, I guess, because it is the Endgame. It's after you hit level cap. I'm basically fully geared almost. I mean, there's very little possibilities for me to upgrade now. My set, the stuff that I'm wearing, I can get upgrades, but it's more rare, right? Like, I'm pretty good on my sets and stuff, my items and all that, pretty loaded up. I still could, I'm good to go. I'm pretty loaded, so so at this point it's just basically just farming. What I do now is I've been farming old raid just for fun, old raid content solo. That's nice to do. I never could do that before. It used to make me so mad when I would see like Death Knights and what was it, TBC? They were soloing bosses back then when it was like fresh content. Death Knights were soloing freaking raid bosses, and this was when they weren't like way higher level than them and stuff. And I was like, son of a bitch. Of course, it wasn't easy or anything. I had seen some of the videos and I was like, wow, pretty impressive stuff. It was always like a specific class could do a specific thing in order to solo a certain boss and all that kind of stuff. I was never impressed by people that I've watched some of the, I don't remember exactly, but some videos were like, oh, we're soloing this raid boss by glitching it. Like, I'll never be impressed by you glitching a mob. Like, wow, good job. That'll never impress me. But when I see a legit solo, I'm like, especially back then, it's different now. I don't know about people soloing stuff that's like their level-ish kind of a thing. I don't know. But even like if you're only 10 levels higher, some of them can be pretty difficult. I started to see a couple raids in Pandaria when I was going back into solo, and I had a couple hard times. I'm a healer, and I had a couple hard fights. I had to actually change to DPS spec for a couple bosses because I couldn't kill them fast enough. They have like these one-shot mechanics where if you don't kill them fast enough, they will just one-shot you. It's hilarious. It's like, you son of a bitch. So that can be a little crazy, but that's it, my favorite thing to solo now, after the first time my favorite thing to solo is the Deathwing Spine. Or wait, is it Deathwing? I think it's Deathwing. Nefarian? I think it's Deathwing Spine. Pretty sure the Spine. There's the Spine that's a boss all by itself, and then you go fight him, after that and stuff. My first time doing the Spine, I went and looked. I went to the boss fight first time not knowing what the hell it was. Right? I was soloing old content that I never saw before. So I got to the Spine, and it was just I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't beat it. I didn't know what was happening. I kept dying. I died a whole lot, man. I probably spent 2 hours there. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It felt like a long time, so I'm guessing 2 hours. I went online, looked up some walkthroughs and stuff, and I found one of the top videos, which didn't explain much at all. It gave me an idea, but it was so hard to follow. And I kept trying to do things the way he was doing it in the video, and it wasn't working out. So what it was I was like, after many tries, I was like, all right, now I'm gonna slow it down. And I decided to take my own strategy, and after learning the mechanics of it and stuff, I slowed things down and did it the way I wanted to, and it worked out a lot better. Now I can do it. I can go in there and just do it pretty easy. That's after my first try. I did it again this week for the second time, and was like, it was easy because I spent so much practice on that damn fight. And I went to the forums and I was like, damn, dude. I don't remember, I was talking about something and it just came up. I wasn't on the forums like complaining about it or anything. I brought it up in conversation and something discussing like the boss fights and stuff. And I said something like I had spent like a couple hours learning this fight, and this one guy responded like, all you do is kill the ads and that's it. And I was like, no, that's not all you do. That is not all you do. I was like, no, I can't. I was like, does this guy actually done this before? Anyways, I did go off a bit there because it just made me think when I'm talking about this pre-endgame stuff when I got into farming old solo content. But I love the Deathwing spine, man. Oh my gosh, it's freaking fun once you like, understand it. And like I said, I followed the guide online. I was watching the video. I was doing everything he was doing, and I was like, what? I was like, why is this not working? And I just decided, I was like, all right, I understand the fight now. I get it. I'm going to do this instead. And basically all I did was just slow down how everything happened, and it made it super easy. The way I was watching it was just so weird, man. Anyways. So, yeah, I think actually my main point for the whole thing was just, I can't believe even normal and heroic dungeons. I get it because Mythic is now the new difficulty. Mythic is what heroic used to be. In heroic, there were normal dungeons, and then there was heroic, and heroic was the harder version of the normal dungeons, and that's pretty cool stuff. And now Mythic is like that, and there's all kinds of stages of Mythic. Like there's Mythic 0 through 20. I don't even know how many Mythic levels there are, but there's a lot, right? So that's the difference. But I still like. It's still really disappointing to come in and do these dungeons and not use any crowd control, any kind of group mechanics that take any paying attention. The only thing that you need to pay attention to is not standing and shit that'll kill you. That's it. There's nothing else really. Although I will say, and plenty of times where I'll be in a group doing these regular dungeons and heroics and stuff, and people won't interrupt spell casts. Like, especially if you see a long spell cast, those are the ones you should interrupt. The short spell cast, not so much. It's like, whatever. It's short. Like, that's just a regular spell. But if you see a freaking enemy with a long-ass spell bar, that's something you need to watch out for. And there's so many people that don't even look out for it. Some of them are uninterruptible, but there are a lot that are interruptible. And if you see somebody casting for a long freaking spell, you should be going, hey, I better try to stop that, So there's still, that's something that doesn't have people it's because nobody really cares, nobody pays attention, they just kind of, there we go. And that's why when I saw, I've seen everybody say this, everybody's like Mythic raids or the shit, and I bet they are, I've watched some on Twitch and stuff, and they still kind of look like, basically they just look the same, except you take more damage and you have to heal for more, that's basically what I've seen. I haven't seen everything, but that's basically what I've seen when I go watch the gameplay for the Mythics and stuff, and I'm just like, okay. I remember like when we would do like normal Ice Crown Citadel dungeons, normal raid, you do the normal version and then you do the heroic version. The heroic version always had a major step up. There was always like some major new phase, some major new mechanic, or two, or three, or whatever. They'd have new stuff that you would have to figure out, and it'd be pretty tough and badass and stuff. And so I don't know, like, I'm not trying to sound like a dig about this. I'm just saying, as an experience of not being in Mythics, but doing the normal endgame, this is what bothers me, is it's so boring. It's just so boring. Like, I can't believe this has happened. This is not what World of Warcraft used to be. Like, and it used to be casual. Now it's like casual for 5-year-olds, man. It's like you might as well put this on a mobile device and just be like, have it do one-touch button freaking controls and World of Warcraft raids, la la la. Like that's a tiny bit of an exaggeration, but pretty much it's pretty much it's basically, man. Outside of the Mythics that I haven't played, but I've just read about them, but I've watched them, and I've watched people wipe on Mythic raids, but it doesn't look that much different. Like, I'm watching them do the progress, and it's all the same mechanics and stuff, and I'm just like, so it does more damage, It's like, but Mythics, I'll leave alone. I'll let people say, yes, Mythics are much harder, sure, okay, cool, but I don't think that the rest should be so boring. It's straight up boring, man. Like, The game is still fun. I don't mean like the game in general is boring. It's just like as a person that wants to heal dungeons and stuff, and I go into these dungeons and not even having to heal people is like, okay, you know, like, what the hell, man? And again, my buddy Wags, he was pointing out people are geared now, but it's just, I don't know. I remember a time even when we were geared, it wasn't. It was easier. Oh, it was definitely a lot easier. When we went and farmed heroics, we were geared up, we were raid geared, we went to do heroics, and we just kind of, we steamrolled them. But it wasn't half as easy as it is now. Come on, man. Like, if anybody played, you gotta know it wasn't half as easy as it is now. Like, you still had to, like, know shit and, know what you were doing. It wasn't like, let's just go in here and AoE everything. Like, oh my gosh. Ugh, fucking crap. So, I'm not hating on the game. I just wanted to come back and talk about that. My feelings so far in pre-Endgame. I'm going to call it pre-Endgame because it's in the Endgame, but it's not the maximum ultimate Endgame, And I'm telling you, man, I cannot believe. It's been like that since I had leveled up pretty much. It was a little more difficult, healing those groups, but it was the same thing. It was just AoE everything, AoE. And I was just like, what the hell happened the whole time? I was like, what happened? What happened? You're just like, wait, like, it's still, there's plenty of fun to be had, but it's just, oh my gosh, dude, I don't know. I definitely need to do mythics though, like badly. Cause right now I'm already looking at other MMOs that I want to start playing. I'm gonna try Rift again and whatever. Like, I'm not giving up on WoW. I'm just kind of like, okay, well. And then, here's the thing about the mythic thing that really pisses me off, and I'm hoping that they fix this. It doesn't like piss me off, but it's something that could really use fixing. And I hope they do this in future patches or maybe the expansion. I don't know, whatever. I don't know their timeline on expansions and all that kind of stuff, but I really hope that with mythic. So right now, mythic dungeons are basically you have to do a search for lobbies and like a list of people that are trying to do mythic dungeons, and you go to there and then you try to find people to do mythics with. So it's a lot different than the actual dungeon grouping thing where you click on find group and it finds a group for you, right? Same thing for heroics and regular dungeons and stuff. So mythic is not the same way. You can use it. I mean, it's not hard to use or anything, but it's also not as, I don't know, it's just crappy-ish, I'm sure the system works and all that. I brought my first group I tried to do a mythic with, and it's the only group I've tried to do a mythic with so far, because when it happened, like, after it happened, I was like, I'm too tired, I'm going to go to bed anyway, so I haven't gone back to go try look for another mythic group. But my first mythic group, I get into this mythic group, and apparently they were on their way. There was like a tank and one DPS, and then three others of us joined, I think it was. And we were in the chat, and the guys like, make your way to the instance. We're already clearing to the boss. We're like halfway there, and I was like, I remember we used to summon people. There's so many stones out there, and that's what it is. You have to actually go to the dungeon. You don't get teleported there automatically in these mythics because it's not part of the random queue thing. Like, you can't just queue for a mythic and go. And I remember even for heroics, like, the first two people would get there, whoever was closer or whoever just headed there first, really. Some people would be super lazy, but whatever, I mean, I used to, especially when you know your way around, it's not a big deal to go to the dungeon and go click the summoning stone and summon your party, right? So they're already on their way to the boss. They don't need heals, and I'm just like, if you don't need heals for fucking trash, why I'm just like, I'm already tired. Screw it. And they didn't even want to wait. They didn't even want to wait just a minute or whatever to summon the group and go in and flow through it. They were like, we're clearing trash. So I was just like, all right, and I just left the group. And it's probably a dick move on my part. I don't think of it that way because I'm just like, seriously, like. That, I don't know, I think that's silly. So I think it's silly on both sides, right? Like, I mean, I was tired, or else I might have put up with it, but I was already tired, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? They're not even gonna like summon people, but they're already there. They're just gonna go clear without their group and stuff. Like, that's, not only are they doing that without their group, but they can do it without. You shouldn't be able to fucking solo fucking through trash and shit, man. What, damn it, oh the hell. So that bothers me, but I'm hoping one thing I'm really hoping that they do with the mythics is add it to the group queue thing, kind of like random dungeons and heroics. And it would probably take a lot of work. I don't know exactly, but because like I was saying, there's a lot of different mythic levels, and when you create these groups, when these people are creating these groups in the little lobby list that you pick from, they're creating the level of difficulty for the mythic and stuff like that. So I'm really hoping that they will be able to let you have a drop down menu for mythic when you pick a random. Like, this isn't a thing that I'm hoping they'll be able to do this in the future. Add mythics to the queue so you can randomly get a group on it and teleport to the dungeon and all that stuff, and allow you to pick the tier that you want to play. And if you don't have the item level that they recommend for that tier, then you cannot pick that tier. It's the same thing like with normal dungeons and heroics right now. You cannot queue for dungeons or get into a random dungeon for something that your gear level in game, they're telling you your gear is not good enough for this, so you cannot get into this dungeon right now. I think you probably could if you did that whole manual running to the dungeon thing, but you can't do like the random group thing. That would be with the groups of friends or guildies or something, and I think that would be cool. You like force yourselves to just go under geared, like let's go do this under geared, let's go use some crowd control. All that pretty pointless, but just for fun. I don't know what. Anyways, so mythics, I hope they do that in the future. I hope they do that like with the drop down menu, and then let you change which difficulty level that you can queue for. And if it says your item level doesn't allow you to do that, I don't know. I think that would be much better than the way the system is now. I don't think the system now is like the worst or anything, but it's not a very good one, especially when you're so accustomed to doing these like random groups, normal and heroics and stuff, and then all of a sudden mythics, you gotta like look for a custom personal made lobby list or whatever. And I've also read bad things about that, where people require higher item levels. Like if you do like a item level 900 mythic and people are requesting or telling you we will not take you unless you have 930 and stuff like that, which makes sense. People want experienced players. So there's a whole thing with that. So I can understand people wanting to play with experienced players and all that. I can understand that. I don't blame them for doing that, requiring like an out of this world item level for a dungeon when they don't need that. I don't blame them for doing that or anything. But I'm really hoping Blizzard will be able to add a mythic kind of a thing to that. And until then, I probably won't be doing it until frickin' Wags decides to go with me. We were talking about it the other night. He's like, I'm ready whenever you are. And I was like, I wasn't ready that moment. I was also working, so I was like, damn it. But hopefully we'll get into that, and then and if we do, and if I depending on how much I find out how different it is, if this happens, right, I'll of course come back and make another video. I'm just saying right now, getting Endgame and seeing what's happened to LFR, and even though I point out, I'm telling you, but like it's been a year, people are overgeared for this stuff. Like I'm still like, come on, man. We're like, really? I did Panda raids a little bit, and I did looking for raid when Panda first introduced looking for raid, right? And even then, like I said, man, people were geared. People were geared enough for those raids, and it still wasn't. You didn't just run in there and everything just fell over dead, and that was it, and people didn't need heals. I'm not even kidding. You can go in these places. Nobody needs heals. Just boss dead. That's just. Anyways, yeah, I guess rant over. And I know I could be totally off my rocker. I know that because I haven't done the mythics. I know. I'm talking about the pre-Endgame. I'll make the title pre-Endgame, whatever. That's just weird, man. It's weird. It's just they definitely like. I thought the game was casual before, and I loved it for it. I thought it was really cool because I'd come from EverQuest and other games where they required like Final Fantasy 11 too, like the craziest grinds ever. And I played World of Warcraft, and I was like, I like that this is a bit more casual, but still more rewarding and all this stuff. And now it doesn't even feel rewarding. They literally hand you loot everywhere you go, and everything you do, they just hand you like raid gear. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying this. They literally hand you raid gear. You do the world quests. You do PvP hands you raid gear, which is cool. It's actually cool because, if all you want to do is PvP, you're getting really nice gear, and you don't have to, I don't know. It's still. I'm telling you, I don't know. I can't help but think maybe this is because of the loss of subscribers. They still have plenty. I think they still have like at least 1 million subscribers, right? Which is a pretty damn big number for such an old game. But that's how much it's come down. It just makes me think. Like I can't help but think Is this why the game is too easy now? They're just like, well, we don't have 10 million subscribers anymore. Let's just give people shit, you know. The content is really cool. My previous video of returning to World of Warcraft was all about just enjoying the world of Warcraft, enjoying the game, enjoying the universe, enjoying the storylines, enjoying the quests, and it is all good stuff. I'm still behind that. I still think it's a great game. But getting into this pre-endgame kind of a thing it's a major disappointment. Especially, like I said, just everything that I've already said, where the dungeons are... It's such a joke. Oh, man. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you made it through here, cool. If not, that's cool too. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful night, whatever time it is, all that kind of stuff. You're awesome. Have a great, super cool, wonderful day. Bye-bye. Oh my, where am I at? Here we go.